For those unfamiliar with the process, the upcoming December 6th draft will reshape the league, with the Golden State Valkyries, the new team entering the league in 2025, looking to build their roster. Each existing franchise gets to protect 6 players, keeping them safe from being poached.
Indiana. New era, new energy. Already making plans for next season. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Indiana?
Sounds simple, right? Well, not for the Indiana Fever. In an unfortunate turn of events, the team's social media team accidentally posted their protected player list a full day before the protection deadline. Imagine a high-stakes game of poker, and instead of holding your cards close, you lay them all out for your rivals to see. The graphic, showcasing who the Fever deemed worthy of protection.
There's not even one scenario ever out there in all the multiverses where Caitlyn Clark wouldn't be on the list.
Went live for all to see, allowing rival teams, and especially the Valkyries, to take note of Indiana's priorities. The list was promptly screenshotted by fans, and once that happens, well, screenshots are forever. What followed was a PR disaster of monumental proportions. But that's not even the worst part. No, the worst part is that this wasn't some innocent slip-up. This was the culmination of a series of missteps that reveal the true dysfunction within the Fever's front office. Let's start with the obvious players on the protected list: Caitlyn Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. The faces of the franchise, the heart of this team.
Expansion Draft is happening on December the 6th. It's going to be live on ESPN. But before that happens, here's what you need to know.
Clark, with her historic rookie season, is the unquestionable centerpiece. Boston, with her double-double machine consistency, is a force on both ends of the floor. Mitchell, a dynamic scorer, has become an irreplaceable part of the roster protecting them, of course. But here's where the logic starts to fall apart. Now let's talk about the choices that are raising eyebrows, if not outright confusion. Nalissa Smith, someone who's shown flashes of brilliance but whose inconsistency has been well documented. The same player who spent a good chunk of last season making headlines for her TikTok drama rather than her play on the court. Sure, she has potential.
We have a new team, the Golden State Valkyries, that's going to begin and play in 2025. But before that happens, we need to have an expansion draft because they need some players on their roster.
That potential has been overshadowed by her inability to string together consistent performances, protecting her. It's like flipping a coin and hoping for heads. It's a high-risk move and it's a gamble that might not pay off. And then there's Tammy Bentley, the veteran with injury concerns that have plagued her ability to contribute consistently.
And our ultimate goal is to hang another banner in the field house. And our ultimate goal is to come back in here after we win that championship and celebrate again like we did in 2012.
While she has undoubtedly been a locker room leader, it's hard to justify prioritizing her over a younger, fresher talent like Grace Berger or Damiris Dantas, both of whom have shown more promise in limited minutes. Bentley might have had her moments early in the season, but picking her over promising young players is a head-scratcher that only adds to the growing list of questionable decisions. But here's where things really start to unravel. The Fever decided to leave Grace Berger and Damiris Dantas unprotected. Now, let's be clear. Both of these players are far from a liability. Grace Berger, a young, underutilized talent, is the kind of player who could thrive in the right system.
In sports, it's a big opportunity to be a part of this rising tide that we're all experiencing. Everybody in this company's all in. Everybody in this city's all in.
She's a perfect backup for Caitlyn Clark, providing depth, scoring, and versatility. To leave her exposed, especially when she could easily be snapped up by a team like the Golden State Valkyries, is a colossal oversight. And then there's Damiris Dantas, a versatile forward with the ability to stretch the floor and provide depth in the front court. Letting her go is a decision that reeks of short-term thinking, as Indiana risks watching her flourish elsewhere while they're left scrambling to fill the void. The backlash from fans was swift and predictable, and justified. This is the kind of blunder that fans have every right to be upset about. It's a clear case of a franchise failing to recognize the value of its players, and it's a move that could haunt them for years to come at.
There's not even one scenario ever out there in all the multiverses where Caitlyn Clark wouldn't be on the list. Aaliyah Boston, same thing.
Let's take a moment to address the theory swirling around this fiasco. Was this leak intentional? Some fans have suggested that the Fever's social media team posted the list on purpose, using the fan base as a sort of focus group to gauge public reaction. If that was the case, then it's a risky, reckless move that could backfire spectacularly. But if this was just an accident, a simple mistake, albeit one with catastrophic consequences.
Thing goes for her. Kelsey Mitchell is going to be a free agent, but we know the Fever really want to bring her back. They've been celebrating her accomplishments in China. They just posted an hour.
It speaks volumes about the competency of the Fever's front office. This isn't just a rookie mistake. It's the kind of blunder that will be talked about for years to come. You don't accidentally post your protected player list just one day before the deadline. In an era where leaks can make or break franchises, you'd think the Fever would have better safeguards in place. Yet here we are, with Indiana Fever handing their rivals a cheat sheet to their strategy, practically inviting teams like the Golden State Valkyries to pounce on their mistakes. Speaking of the Valkyries,
her highlights online, they can core her if they have her rights and keep her under contract. So it makes sense that they keep that big three.
This leak has been a gift for them. With the protected player list now out in the open, Golden State has a clear view of Indiana's priorities and a golden opportunity to disrupt their plans. With a deeper understanding of what the Fever value, the Valkyries can target unprotected players like Grace Berger and Damiris Dantas, potentially turning them into franchise cornerstones. Indiana's loss is Golden State's gain.
Court stuff, she's not the best decision maker with the basketball. Motor comes into question at times, not really a shooter. However, there was also the other...
And the Valkyries should send a thank you card for making their job that much easier. It's hard to overstate just how much of a disaster this has been for Indiana. The Fever's first mistake, letting this list leak, was bad enough. But the decisions that led to the leak are even worse. The whole thing reeks of poor judgment, disorganization, and a fundamental misunderstanding of how to handle high-stakes situations. The Fever have put themselves in a precarious position. They've already lost valuable credibility, and the upcoming expansion draft is only going to make things worse if they don't turn things around.
We seem to have an issue with Christy Sides. Doesn't seem to stay away from social media at times. And then the thing with Dejanay Carrington and the Sun and
the mistakes they've made, protecting players like Nalissa Smith and Tammy Benley while exposing Grace Berger and Damiris Dantas, have put them on the defensive.
In fact, Benley is a winning attitude kind of player, plays hard on defense, really ran the floor well on the season, did a nice job converting.
If those moves don't pay off, and if Smith doesn't live up to expectations while Benley's injury woes continue, the Fever could be left holding the bag. Meanwhile, the Valkyries will likely be laughing at how easy it is to exploit Indiana's blunders. In the end, it's all about strategy. And right now, Indiana's strategy looks more like a disorganized scramble than a clear path to success. The Fever had a chance to build on their recent success, to put together a roster that could contend for years to come. Instead, they've turned their offseason into a cautionary tale, one that will likely be studied by other franchises as a prime example of how not to handle the expansion draft.
Caitlyn Clark's passes early in the year didn't do as well later in the year with that. Blew a lot of layups and bunnies, but I think part of that was because she had a hand injury.
So, what now? The Fever have a long road ahead of them. They'll have to make some tough decisions, rebuild their credibility.
Never know. You just never, ever know when it comes to
and hope that their real strategy, whatever it is, will be enough to turn this debacle into a distant memory. The WNBA is more competitive than ever, and if Indiana doesn't clean up their act soon, they'll be left in the dust days for the fans. They're in for a rough ride.
The WNBA, like, nothing will surprise me. But this is a competent franchise. They're going to keep the players that have the most value, whether it be on the court or in
the Fever may have big dreams of hanging another championship banner in the fieldhouse, but after this disaster, it's hard to see how that vision will become a reality anytime soon. If this is what new energy looks like, then buckle up, Indiana.
I can get the most out of Alyssa, or maybe the Fever think, hey, we're not going to lose her for nothing. Let's protect her because she does have traits.
You're in for a turbulent season. This leak, this fiasco, it's more than just a mistake. It's a moment of reckoning for the Indiana Fever. The team has a chance to redeem themselves, to come back stronger. But for now, they've handed their rivals a massive advantage, and the fallout from this misstep could echo throughout the season.
The reason this has become a thing is because the players in front of her, well, there were 6 of them. And the WNBA draft, the expansion draft coming up,
fans, analysts, and even rival teams are watching closely. The Fever have their work cut out for them, both on and off the court. The road to redemption starts now, but the question remains, will they take it? Stay tuned, because if Indiana Fever doesn't clean up their act, the 2024 season is going to be one for the books.
Each franchise can. So fans try to put 2 and 2 together, seeing the 6 players that Stephanie White was talking to and thinking those must be the 6.
And not in the way they'd hoped. Subscribe to Sport Pulse for more updates and commentary on this and other sports stories as they unfold. The Fever's offseason just got a whole lot more interesting.